Alright guys, welcome back to another episode of the 61 Bel Air. So last we left it, we added the auxiliary Edelbrock fuel pump, a 3.5 psi electronic fuel pump assist to the mechanical fuel pump. That the new fuel pump just didn't seem to be working. Some people suggested that maybe the push rod that runs off of the cam might have slid down into the oil pan. I haven't checked that yet, but I will. But for today, we're replacing the starter. So the starter cylinder is what was giving us problems. The piece on top there, that starter solenoid. So I'm going to replace the whole starter. That way it just eliminates any other starter issues. I'm just going to replace the whole starter. So I ordered one from Rock Auto. Came in about 4 days or so. I also got the brand new battery. It's already disconnected. I'm going to work on removing those cables off the solenoid and then start taking off the actual starter motor. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so I removed the harness, the battery wire, and then the two wires off the solenoid right up here. Just hit them out of the way. Now, can't really tell, but there's a bolt on the bottom and one right there. So I think they're 9/16. So I'm going to try to get the bottom one first because that's the more difficult. And then I'll work on this top one. Alright, so the two bolts. The one on top looks like a stud, and it was 3/4. Very tight to get into, impossible to get to with a socket. So I used a box wrench to crack it loose, and it is 3/4. So I cracked it loose already. I'm taking the rest off by hand. All right. That's a big bolt. So yeah, 3/4. Yep, 3/4 on the top. The bottom one, I lifted the car up. I got it up on jack stands right now. I'm gonna go ahead and get to the bottom one right now. All right, so I'm gonna get that bottom bolt right now. The bottom one fixed the closed end of the back wrench, but let's see if we can get it all the way off. This is a very heavy starter because the new one's heavy. I can only imagine the original one from 1961. But let's see if I can get this thing off. Alright. The bolt is out. I'm going to pop the starter off. And I'll be able to take it off from the top actually. Yeah. It's pretty heavy. I don't want it to fall on my head. So I'm going to just grab from the top, pull it out. Yep. I got her. Alright, so now there's the old one. Pretty damn heavy. Let's grab the new one, make sure she looks exactly the same. Nobody had it locally. Had to go to Rock Auto, which is just fine. And it is the same bolt pattern. So I'm going to go ahead and get her in there. Give this new one a line up on that stud. Move this battery wire out of the way because it's giving me a problem to remove. Just put it down here for now. All right. Put that 3/4 bolt back at the top. Just my hand so I can line up the bottom bolt. right, I'm gonna go underneath and see if I can mount up that bottom bolt and tighten her up also. Okay. All right, bottom one's all set. I'm gonna snug up this top one. All right, 2 starter bolts on. Now I'm going to put the 2 solenoid bolts and the battery bolt on. Solenoid came with all new bolts on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove these nuts and washers and hopefully not drop any. Put these back the same way they came off. All right. Okay. Now the battery positive. The new one was a 5/8, the old one was a 9/16. So I have to get the right wrench. Okay, got number 6 cylinder wire back on, coil wire right there. All right, I think we're ready to plug this battery in. Okay. Negative in now. I think I'm going to have to get this one with a wrench. All right, I'm going to lower the car back down and let's see what she does. All right, new starter's in. You can see that here. Plugged everything back in. I actually put the battery on a charge. It's already at 13.3 because it's a brand new battery, but I just wanted to make sure that I had enough cranking amps for the new starter. Let's see what she does. That's what I want to hear. She's running. She's running. It might stall out, but she's running. That right there was a great feeling. So I'm going to adjust the carburetor a little bit, but it is running. Thank God for the new starter. I'm going to play with the new carburetor now. So I don't know if I should swap to the original carburetor again. This one's not working properly. Could also be the fact that I'm running the auxiliary fuel pump with the mechanical fuel pump. I can eliminate the mechanical and run just the auxiliary electric fuel pump. Is the thing leaking fuel or what? No, it's just condensation coming off the exhaust. I'm going to take the mechanical fuel pump off and see if that cylinder, or not cylinder, but the piston that rides on the cam came off. The carburetor just sounds like it's getting way too much air. This is the new mechanical fuel pump, but there's a rod that goes off the cam that rides down into the pump itself. And I also had somebody say that the new pump I bought just might have been junk. That's why I decided to run a mechanical, or excuse me, electronic auxiliary fuel pump. This is a 3.5 PSI Edelbrock electric fuel pump that I'm running off an ignition wire. So, I mean, I could eliminate the electronic fuel pump so that the fuel that it is pumping up with its electronic one is not just going through the mechanical one and then up through the feed line. I can just run a direct line into the carburetor. But I would like to have the mechanical fuel pump run. So I'm going to take the mechanical fuel pump off again and see if that rod is inside of there or not. Alright, so I got the fuel pump off. It's sitting up here. there was a lot of pressure on the fuel, just like a fuel injected engine, where an electric fuel pump is just keeps that pressure there. So that is definitely getting a lot of fuel into that fuel pump. But when I was talking about this hole here, this is where the fuel pump mounts up to, and inside of here, up inside of this piece in here like this, I thought it was a push rod, but I don't feel any channel for a push rod or anything. So I believe it runs kind of like a can, spins, unless that's the bottom of a, I'd have to look it up, because I'm used to the Chevys with a push rod that rides and just pushes down on the fuel pump. So that's not the scenario here. So just as I push the fuel pump in, it rides on this lobe right here of what feels like a can. So I'm going to put the mechanical fuel pump back, run it without the electric fuel pump, and see if it gets fuel, because it was not getting fuel with that fuel pump. So I think that fuel pump might be bad, but it doesn't hurt to try. Alright, so I ran just the mechanical fuel pump, disconnected the electric fuel pump from any hoses, and I'm running just the mechanical. Right now, I don't even know if it'll start, but the last time I tried just the mechanical fuel pump, it wasn't even getting fuel to the carburetor. So I'm gonna see if it's getting fuel now magically somehow. I'm gonna choke up a little bit. So it's starting. I just want to see if we're getting any fuel in that carburetor. Here we are. I can eliminate the electric fuel pump now. I'm getting fuel. So I can eliminate that fuel pump. I'm going to put the air cleaner back on. Just if it's getting too much air, maybe. Who knows? Backfire there. I'm going to disconnect that red wire back there that's going over to the electric fuel pump. Remove that. I'm going to check my fluids again, make sure that, because actually was getting overflow of antifreeze in it also. So I put this little container because I don't want that spilling on the ground. Just happy that it's running. It does run. Just got to play with the carburetor. So what I'm doing is I'm adjusting the little vacuum on here. I could try to take off the vacuum on the actual carburetor. There's a vacuum right on the carburetor, but I don't know where that would go. Let me try to close that a little bit more. Well, thanks for watching, guys.